In Newton, a suburb of Boston, Massachusetts, voices of mother and child echo from a white colonial-style house on Commonwealth Avenue, a quiet, upscale residential street. "Matthew, don't forget your lunch. I made you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today." Carol Brown handed over the lunchbox to her 8-year-old son Matthew, who was beaming with his favorite model airplane in hand. He stood tall in his navy blazer from Ward Elementary School. "Is Dad leaving early again today?" "Yes, he left at 6 a.m. Seems there's a redevelopment project in Cambridge." Matthew looked a bit sad but quickly returned to smiling. A yellow school bus approached through the morning mist. "Well, I'm off." Carol kept waving until the bus carrying her son disappeared around the corner. Mrs. Jones next door cast an envious glance while tending to her roses. Indeed, they appeared to be the perfect family on the surface. Her husband Stephen was a shrewd businessman who had tripled the revenue of Brown Real Estate Development, inherited from his father, in just 5 years. Carol herself worked as a freelance graphic designer, creating posters for charity events and promotional materials for the church. The couple met at a Boston College alumni gathering. Carol, raised in a devoutly religious household, still attended Mass every Sunday at St. Ignatius Church after marriage. Family lunches at the Cheesecake Factory after the first Sunday Mass of each month had become a tradition. These meals with her brother-in-law's family were always filled with warmth. "Carol, this potato salad is delicious with just the right amount of spice. You must give me the recipe sometime." Amy smiled as she spoke. She was the wife of Stephen's brother David and a former United Airlines flight attendant. Now she supported her meticulous husband as a full-time homemaker. "Of course. But we haven't been able to get together as much lately. You even had to cancel last week's bingo night." Amy's expression clouded momentarily at Carol's casual comment. Indeed, there had been more sudden cancellations over the past 2 weeks. David had been working overtime, saying he was busy with maintenance work at Logan Airport. Stephen had also been coming home later more often. Carol accepted his explanation of dinner meetings with important clients without question. "Hey, about that Hawaii trip during spring break." David changed the subject. He explained they could use his United Airlines employee discount since he worked there as a maintenance technician. "I'll pass this time. I haven't been feeling well." Amy apologized apologetically. An awkward silence fell over the table. "How about March 15th to Honolulu? Matthew's spring break will be starting then." When Stephen spoke, Matthew jumped up with joy. "Yay! We get to ride on Uncle's airplane. Can we visit Pearl Harbor too?" The model airplane in Matthew's hand trembled, casting an ominous shadow on the table. Terminal B at Boston Logan Airport was bustling with passengers waiting for early morning flights. With spring break season beginning, there were many families on the Hawaii-bound flight. "David, thank you for coming to see us off so early." Carol bowed to her brother-in-law. David had come straight from his early morning duties, still in his navy blue United Airlines maintenance uniform. He seemed unusually restless as he adjusted his crooked tie. "Travel safely." I thoroughly checked today's aircraft myself. There was something meaningful in David's voice. Carol couldn't read the emotion hidden in his eyes. His hands seemed to tremble slightly. How's Amy feeling? Oh, she's still in bed. But don't worry. After his curt reply, David hastily checked his watch. At the security checkpoint, Matthew was reluctant to part with his model airplane, causing a slight delay. Thanks to a kind officer who carefully showed him the baggage inspection process, the boy was finally able to check it in. United Airlines Flight 407 to Honolulu will begin boarding shortly from Gate 23. First class and premium members may now board. Matthew excitedly pulled his parents' hands while waving his boarding pass. The new aircraft gleamed in the morning sun. Let's hurry. I get the window seat, right, Dad? During check-in, Stephen had chosen an aisle seat for himself, saying he needed to check business emails during the flight. Their seats were arranged in row 33, with Carol sitting between her son and husband. A cheerful flight attendant greeted them at the boarding gate. There were 6 crew members on this flight. According to the captain's announcement, the flight time would be approximately 10 hours. During takeoff, Matthew excitedly watched through the window, cheering as Boston's cityscape grew smaller. Stephen had already taken out his laptop, switching into work mode. 30 minutes after takeoff, the cabin was enveloped in a peaceful atmosphere. The morning sun streamed in at 30,000 feet. With stable air conditions, the seatbelt sign had been turned off. As flight attendants began serving coffee and orange juice, Matthew spoke up anxiously. "Mom, this seat is making a weird noise." Carol looked up from her magazine toward her son. "What kind of noise?" "It's rattling. We didn't hear this noise when we went to San Francisco before." Matthew's voice carried the pure anxiety unique to children. Carol gently checked her son's seatbelt buckle. "Something did feel off. If it's bothering you that much, I'll switch seats with you." Stephen suddenly spoke up while typing emails. It was unexpected kindness from a husband who usually disliked interruptions while working. "But are you sure? What about your work emails?" "Don't worry about it. Matthew wants to enjoy the view, right? Besides, I can stretch my legs better in the aisle seat." The 3 exchanged seats. The cabin was about 80% full, with surrounding passengers absorbed in their own activities. They moved places casually without reporting to the flight attendants. The time showed 7:30 a.m. Carol felt something nagging at her. Like there was some hidden intention behind her husband's suddenly kind offer. But she couldn't put this unease into words. Matthew was mesmerized by the Pacific Ocean's blue visible between the clouds. He got excited whenever small islands appeared below. The view from 30,000 feet must have seemed like heaven to the 8-year-old boy. Stephen ordered a mini bottle of whiskey in his new seat. He usually limited his drinking on flights. His phone screen showed unread messages from Amy, at an angle Carol couldn't see. However, no one could have known that this kind seat swap would dramatically change the family's fate. The aircraft continued flying quietly toward Hawaii, its nose pointed southwest. Breakfast service preparations were beginning in the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will soon begin our breakfast service. While the seatbelt sign is off, please keep your seatbelt fastened when seated for your safety." Janet, a veteran flight attendant, made the announcement in a cheerful voice. In her 15 years of experience, she had handled numerous emergencies. But what was about to happen would exceed even her experience. "Mom, I want pancakes." Matthew spoke with an expectant voice. Carol gently stroked her son's hair while showing him the menu card. "They have waffles too. With maple syrup." Just then, the aircraft began to shake slightly. Normal turbulence at high altitude. The pilot immediately raised the nose slightly, beginning to move to a more stable airspace. Stephen closed his work laptop and reclined his seat. It was unusual for the typically work-focused husband to take a break. He occasionally glanced at his watch as if waiting for something. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're expecting some turbulence at our current altitude. Please fasten your seatbelts for your safety." Just before the captain's announcement, Stephen had made a show of checking his seatbelt. "Would you like more coffee?" The moment flight attendant Janet spoke to Stephen, there was a sound like tearing metal. Stephen's body suddenly floated up. His seatbelt had completely detached. The aircraft shook violently. "Stephen!" Carol's scream echoed through the cabin. Her husband's body was floating toward the ceiling. Passengers' screams overlapped one after another. Janet made an instant decision and reached for the floating Stephen along with two male passengers nearby. Amid the violent turbulence, she was employing all her 15 years of experience to respond. "Is there a medical professional on board?" Another flight attendant made an announcement. A middle-aged woman raised her hand from the rear seats. The situation was chaos. The pilot immediately began descending. The sudden pressure change at this altitude put great stress on both the aircraft and passengers. However, there was no other choice. The co-pilot calmly continued communication with air traffic control. Carol's mind had gone blank. The events unfolding before her eyes didn't seem real. "Ma'am, it's all right. Your husband is conscious." The emergency physician spoke in a calm voice. Stephen appeared to have fortunately avoided serious injury. Matthew was reciting prayers in a trembling voice. The boy desperately repeated the Lord's Prayer he had learned in Sunday school. His pure prayer quietly echoed through the cabin. 15 minutes after the emergency began, the aircraft had descended and maintained a relatively stable condition. While passengers remained agitated, the worst seemed to have passed. The captain's grave voice came over the announcement system. "We are currently planning an emergency landing at San Francisco International Airport. Estimated arrival time is 9:45 a.m. local time. Medical teams have been requested and are standing by." Carol reached for her smartphone, searching for David's number with trembling fingers. However, before she could disable airplane mode, a flight attendant quietly shook her head. "I'm sorry. The signal could affect our instruments. David. His last words suddenly came back to Carol's memory. I thoroughly checked today's aircraft myself. She still didn't understand the true meaning of those words. Stephen was lying in a rear seat, attended by the doctor. His cell phone had fallen to the floor, showing unread messages from Amy on the screen. Are you really sure about this? That single line floated on the dark screen. Matthew now refused to look out the window. The 8-year-old boy was conscious of death for the first time in his life. Federal Aviation Administration accident investigators had already grasped decisive evidence. This is clearly tampering. Chief Investigator Thomas Harrison said while handling the disassembled seatbelt mechanism. His eyes, with 30 years of experience, saw through the truth. This part was deliberately modified to detach with pressure changes. Moreover, it's the work of someone with considerable technical knowledge. The investigation team gathered in the conference room drew sharp breaths. Security camera footage played on the screen. At Boston Logan Airport's hangar, David Brown in uniform was seen lurking around Flight 407's aircraft. He carried a toolbox. The footage showed him working on a specific seat for far longer than normal inspection time. According to Mr. Brown's employment record, he hasn't had any accidents or misconduct in the past 10 years. The Human Resources report. Everyone was puzzled by the actions of someone known as an excellent maintenance technician. Just then, a call came in from the San Francisco police. Mrs. Amy Brown has voluntarily come forward to testify. The statement contained shocking content. It went back 2 months. When Amy borrowed her husband David's smartphone, she discovered everything through a message that happened to arrive. Subject: Next hotel reservation. From Stephen Brown. Same room this weekend too. I can't focus on work thinking about you. I love you. Scrolling revealed 3 years of conversation history. A luxury hotel near Prudential Tower. Rendezvous disguised as business trips. Numerous photos of them together. It all began at a Christmas party 2 years ago. I couldn't believe it. Amy continued her testimony to the police in a trembling voice. My husband deeply respected his brother. Stephen even served as best man at our wedding. And yet, her phone contained records of everything since that day. The changes in her husband's behavior. His late-night monologues. Going out with his toolbox. And his abnormal behavior on the day of the accident. That morning, David was like a different person. He kept muttering it will all end. In the interrogation room, David Brown finally spoke. At first, it was just suspicion. His voice was flat, as if suppressing emotion. I noticed my wife acting strange. She started hiding her phone, going out more often. But I never thought my brother would. He stared intently at the evidence photos on the desk. When I found the photos, my mind went blank. My brother was everything to me. Taking over the company, becoming successful, having an ideal marriage. Tears fell onto the desk. I decided on revenge after seeing Amy's phone. Their message exchanges. Meeting places. Hotel receipts. He planned everything. He intended to make it look like a certain fatal accident using his knowledge as a maintenance technician. A mechanism triggered by pressure changes. An accident at 30,000 feet. Seatbelt failure. It was a perfect plan. David's confession revealed even more shocking facts. But I never expected Matthew to want to change seats. His voice trembled. I didn't mean to kill my nephew. So when Stephen said he'd switch seats, I thought heaven was on my side. 1 week after the accident. Boston Federal Court. David Brown was indicted for attempted murder amid a swarm of reporters. Defendant David Brown. You are charged with attempted murder and public endangerment for deliberately tampering with aircraft safety equipment and endangering passengers' lives. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. In the back, Carol's shoulders shook. Beside her sat Matthew, who still couldn't fully comprehend the gravity of the situation. Stephen was absent. After the accident, he resigned as chairman of Brown Real Estate Development. His affair with Amy was reported by national media. The defendant planned and executed an extremely dangerous crime using his professional knowledge and position. The prosecutor's voice continued. An aircraft accident endangers many civilian lives. The defendant's actions carry gravity equivalent to terrorism. David remained looking down throughout. The proud maintenance technician he once was nowhere to be seen. Amy appeared as a witness. Her testimony detailed her husband's psychological breakdown. My husband worshipped his brother like a god. Her voice was filled with sorrow. But our betrayal took everything from him. The courtroom was enveloped in heavy silence. The jury's verdict came after 12 hours. Unanimous guilty verdict. Defendant David Brown is hereby sentenced to 12 years in prison. After the verdict, Carol passed Amy in the hallway. They couldn't even make eye contact with their former friend. Matthew would never again touch the model airplane that held his father's photo. Special prayers were offered for this family at St. Ignatius Church. But broken trust isn't easily repaired. The spring sunlight continued to brightly illuminate the streets. Nearly a year had passed since the incident. Mom, I finished my homework. Matthew's voice came from the living room. Her son, now in 4th grade, had grown stronger than before. Well done. Carol smiled while checking her son's notebook. All math problems correct. The teacher had written "Best in Class" in bold letters. The calendar on the wall had a red mark. It was visiting day with David. Grandma will pick you up, and during that time, Mom will. I know. Matthew nodded quietly. A visit to Suffolk County Prison. It was also time Carol needed to sort out her own feelings. 2 p.m. Prison visiting room. It's been a while. David's appearance was surprisingly peaceful. Though thinner from prison life, the kindness had returned to his eyes. I'm participating in the rehabilitation program here. He began speaking quietly. Every day, I face my crimes. How foolish that anger and hatred were. Carol silently listened to his words. How is Matthew? He's doing well. He's good at math now and wants to become a scientist. Tears welled up in David's eyes. I really never meant to involve him. But I ended up causing irreparable damage to my precious nephew's heart. His words trailed off. Have you heard about Stephen and Amy? David nodded slightly at Carol's question. I heard Amy divorced and moved to Texas. And my brother. He's in real estate in Las Vegas. I see. Silence fell. Carol. I've been searching for words to apologize. But no words can. David. Carol looked straight into his eyes. I can forgive you. But I can't forget. That's my honest feeling. David nodded deeply. Thank you. I don't ask for more. The visiting time was nearing its end. Give my regards to Matthew. Yes, I will. They quietly bid farewell. Back at the apartment, Matthew was baking cookies with his grandmother. Mom, I made chocolate chip ones. Carol's heart warmed at her son's smile. New mail sat in the entryway. An envelope from Boston University caught her eye. 3 months ago, Carol had decided to enroll in graduate school to obtain a psychological counseling certification. She wanted to support others in similar situations. That desire drove her forward. Congratulations. You've been accepted. Her mother announced while opening the envelope. Matthew jumped with joy. Mom, that's amazing. This past year, they had lost so much. Yet new bonds had also formed. That evening, watching the sunset beyond the Charles River, Carol reflected. There's no such thing as a perfect family. What matters is having the strength to stand up again after being wounded. Hey, Mom. She turned at Matthew's call. Can I play piano at church this Sunday? Of course. At St. Ignatius Church, Matthew's piano now accompanies the hymns every Sunday. The son had discovered his talent, while the mother had begun pursuing a new dream. And the spring breeze heralded the arrival of a new season. The sunset reflecting on the Charles River slowly sank below the horizon. Tomorrow would bring another morning. It was also the beginning of a new chapter for the Brown family.